It is live. I have figured out how to make YouTube go live. That being the case, attention audio audience, for a moment anyway, this is just a visual. I wish I could do a Donald Trump impersonation. A better one. One at all. Every comedian, every television personality can do a better Donald Trump than me. At best, I'm doing Stephen Colbert doing a impersonation of, what's that guy on NBC? I can't remember. Anyway, one comedian doing an impression of another comedian's impression of Trump. I can't do a Trump. The reason this is a visual for the audio audience is I am wearing a Trump-ish wig. Somebody suggested I'd get one of these. A Trump-ish wig. It's not very Trump-like. Not very. Color's kind of right, but it's not very. What's it look like from the back? Not bad with headphones on, I guess. So just go to the website. If you're an audio audience, go to the website. There'll be a still. You can see that. Here's the reason for the wig. Take off the headphones, take off the wig, and look at that. The 100% hairless wonder of the top of my head. So I'll do a micro cancer cast update before we get to the meat of today's program. And that is, I am in the middle of the second cycle. I had my second chemo infusion a week ago Friday. So 3-week cycle. So a week ago Friday. And same as it ever was. Second verse was kind of the same as the first. Very tired, a lot of fatigue following the infusion for about 10 days, maybe a little more. And then it started to ramp up a little bit. So now, 2 weeks out as of last Friday, today is Saturday. So 2 weeks out as of yesterday, and feeling kind of almost normal. I would know that I'm not normal if I tried to do anything very physically exerting, but I can get up and walk around and do stuff outside and go to food, have fun with friends and stuff like that. If I were to try to work hard, I'd fall apart pretty fast, but doing pretty well. But the first 10 days or so, it was Netflix and chill on the couch for the most part. Very tired. The three things that you talk about in terms of, the three main things in terms of side effects are nausea, which they've got pretty well under control with drugs. So I haven't had any nausea. Bone pain, because they're infusing or generating lots of new white cells in the marrow of the bone, more than there's room inside the bone to handle. So it can hurt, but I haven't had any of that. And then the fatigue. Those are the big three. Now, of course, hair loss. Everybody's going to get that. And when we did the last CancerCast update CancerCast number 2, you could see it was starting to go. And it is continuing to go. Let's see. Let's take a look from the back. So I did shaved things. So the reason it's so smooth and round up there now, again, audio audience, take a look at the website for the picture. The reason it's so smooth and round up there now is I shaved what little was left. And as the main hair was receding, the brown hair that I've got, it was leaving behind a little peach fuzz of very blonde hair. And the skin underneath it was fairly sensitive. And when I put on a hat or put my head down on a pillow, it would be irritated. It would bother me. It wouldn't hurt, but it would just kind of bother me pretty much constantly. So shaved it off. Took care of that problem. So we're doing the bald look. I want to go back to Kojak, but that just belies how old I am, which is, by the way, 70. Kojak's a long time ago. There's got to be some popular current bald people. A lot of bald guys out there now. I feel a little bit self-conscious and conspicuous about it. It's odd when I see myself in the mirror. It's odd when I see myself on the monitor in front of me right now. But, and you may, for those of you that watched the video, may say, yeah, that's different. It's a good look. My wife, Cindy, says, got a nicely shaped dome. She pumps me up, but, it's still odd to me. I've gone 70 years seeing a guy with hair, admittedly very receding hair at current iteration, but still hair on the sides anyway. So it's weird to see it totally chromed. But I like the look. I don't know if I'll stick with it or not. In theory, the hair grows back. They say it could be a different texture. It could be even a different color. And who knows, for me, it could be gray when it comes back. At this age, it should have been gray a long time ago. So it could be gray when it comes back, or some other color temporarily. It could also be curly and a different texture. Again, temporarily, I am reading that it will come back to what it was after a few months. So we'll see. So what's coming next is one more chemo infusion next Friday. So not quite a week away, end of January. So I've got this week where I'll probably feel pretty good, and then again. And then in theory, that's it for the chemo infusions. So the month of February, the first 10 days or so, feeling pretty bad. And then a little bit more of February, feeling pretty good. And the rest of that month off. And then radiation starts in March. There may be one more chemo infusion. It is on the schedule. And I asked about that last time I saw the doc. And the doc said, probably that's just a placeholder for the schedule. So we've got room to run you if we decide that we want to do one more. But probably not. Probably this one, chemo, is the last one. It is still stage 1, just to catch up, stage 1 lymphoma. So things are looking pretty good. I did a test a few months ago, before all this cancer stuff started up. I did that. Can you stand up? Can you sit down on the floor and then stand up again without using your hands? And it turns out without using your knees or your elbows or anything else. If you can do that, it is a indication of longevity. You could have a long life if you can do that. Well, I did that. Pretty good at it. And then, of course, this cancer thing happened. So it didn't turn out to be wrong. It's not necessarily wrong. Hang on a second. Got a bloated nose. Not necessarily wrong, because this cancer is curable. And I could be just fine. Probably will be just fine. Probably, sometime later on this summer. But I was curious if I could do it again. So just a few minutes ago, Cindy held up the camera and we tried this test. So the question is, can I still do this even in my weakened condition? Because this is a test of longevity of life.
Oh.
We'll find out. I don't know. I know I could go down.
That's not the hard part.
I can go down. That's not the problem. Question is, can I get back up?
Ta-da.
I am going to have a long and healthy life. Ta-da. Yeah, cat goes screaming. All right. Yep, I can do it. Long and healthy life coming up for me. And now, let's do a show. From the studio, in the bonus room above the garage on the north side of Cary, nestled close to the foot of Mount Belzoni, this is the Triangle Talk Show. And we are at episode 75. I'm going to give you a civics lesson. It's going to be kind of an off-the-cuff civics lesson because I haven't written out a script or anything. I got a few things to look at, but I haven't really prepared a written script. So this might be a little bit rough. We'll find out. January 25th, 2020. Our vision this year is 2020. NC, first in the nation primary. Yes, North Carolina's first in the nation primary. And ladies and gentlemen, for the first time in a long time, that qualifies for clickbait. And I pushed the clickbait button and nothing happened. There we go. Clickbait. Why is it clickbait? Well, of course, North Carolina does not have the first in the nation primary. We're going to be on Super Tuesday this year. Super Duper Tuesday on March 3rd, the earliest we've had a primary in a long time in North Carolina. But New Hampshire comes first. Iowa on February 3rd. Iowa comes first, the caucus, February 3rd. New Hampshire, February 11th. Nevada. I know better than that. Why am I going with Nevada? Nevada, February 22nd. South Carolina, February 29th. So the big four early primaries are still before our March 3rd Super Duper Tuesday, where we're out there with a bunch of other states and being swamped by Texas and California. But beyond Texas and California, we're one of the bigger ones. But that's still March 3rd. So why am I saying that this is North Carolina's first in the nation primary? And oh, by the way, I'm Gary Pierce, and I'm no longer a potential Hair Club for Men member. I 100% qualify. I could do it. So once again, why am I saying this is the first in the nation primary? It's because you could vote today if you wanted to. Not early voting. Our early voting will still start after the South Carolina primary. I think it will. I gotta go look. Because it's got to be before South Carolina, because South Carolina is February 29th. It's only a few days before the March 3rd. I think Iowa and New Hampshire get in there before our early voting. And then probably early voting is even before Nevada, and certainly before South Carolina. But you could vote today if you wanted to with an absentee ballot. So you could go get an absentee ballot and vote it, send it in, that's your vote. And you've made your decision before the Iowa caucus and the New Hampshire primary. So we're first in the nation. Maybe some other state has also got their early voting going. Iowa can't do early voting. I don't think they could do absentee because the way their caucus system works, none of that stuff works for it. So, I distracted myself. Here's what I distracted myself with. This picture that I took the other day. I'm not sure what, kind of messing up my, my web browser over there. I'm going to need it for some other stuff in a minute. Again, this is a off-the-cuff, last-minute show that I hadn't really prepared myself for. Very well. I just wanted to get it in while I'm still doing well. Tomorrow is the Women's March, so I'm going to be busy doing that. and then the rest of my good week, high energy week until Friday. Maybe squeeze in one more podcast because they're hard to do when I got no energy. They're hard enough to do now. I know I make it look easy, but they're hard to do. So this is going to be that civics lesson that I was talking about. I'm extra froggy today. I decided I wanted to take a look at the ballot for the primary coming up to see what was going to be on it. I knew that here in the North Carolina 4th Congressional District, which I've been in for a long time, David Price would be the congressional candidate. I didn't know if there would be a Democratic challenger. And this being the primary, I would have to choose between taking a Republican and a Democratic ballot. Excuse me. I am registered unaffiliated, so in most primaries, I can choose which one I want to take. So this being the case, or that being the case, and this being a presidential primary, I'm going to want to be able to make a choice from the Democratic candidate. So I'll take a Democratic ballot this time. And I wanted to see what else was going to be on it. I got an idea who the presidential candidates will be, but I wasn't sure what else was going to be there. So, David Price, the congressional candidate. So, so I went and got the ballot, and let's see. Here's something I should have checked because I got it here somewhere. Yeah, maybe this is it. Let's find out. I apologize. I should have prepared this better. I'm just going to do it like this. That's not what I'm looking for. Damn it. I had a link in my show notes to take me to what I wanted to show you. And I don't know what I did with it. Oh, there it is. There we go. I wanted to find out what my ballot was going to be like. Oh, and I've got to go through all of this. Tell you what, let me just show you my work. I will show you what I'm doing here. This is the website for finding your stuff from the North Carolina State Board of Elections, and this is the way you get to your sample ballot for your particular area. You may see some other sample ballots, but they won't be particular to your precinct unless you do this. So this is from the North Carolina State Board of Elections in a somewhat simple, but still a little bit too complicated URL, vt.ncsbe.gov/reglkup. So that's for registration lookup. And this is where you can look yourself up, and in fact, you can look anybody else up in the state and see how they're registered and see what ballots they took in. Well, you can see what elections they voted in, and you can see what ballots they took in the primaries. So I'm going to fill in my stuff here and put in my name, Gary Pierce, by date of birth, 1949. County, I could put in Wake, but I'll just leave it all because there's going to be a few other people, and it's kind of interesting to see what you can look up here. And once again, you can look up anybody, and I'm registered. So this should find me, and only me, because I had my middle initial in there. If I just left Gary Pierce, but it would have been a bunch of us. Okay, so here's my Here's my stuff. Wake County, I'm active. I'm unaffiliated. I am white. Oh my God, am I white? I'm as white as could possibly be. I'm not Hispanic or Latino, and I'm male. And I registered on January 1st, 1990, which was the first day I set foot in North Carolina. Well, no, that's not true. The first when I moved here to live. I'd been here before. But I moved into the state January 1st and registered immediately. And I vote over at the Cary Academy. If you want to, well, I won't vote there. I'll have been early voted, I'm sure, well before that. And then I looked at some other stuff in precinct 4-18. I don't know what a VTD is. I'm in Congressional District 4. I'm in Congressional District 4. What? I'm in Congressional District 2? Oh my God. Wait a minute. Something has changed. I knew that because of the maps had been redrawn after the Republicans lost one more time on their bid to gerrymander the maps. I knew that the maps had changed, but I thought I was still in District 4, and District 2 was nearby, but was not here. But it says right there, District 2. Still in Senate District 16, House District 41, and I don't care about the rest of those there. So what the heck? What the heck? And I don't think that I saw that the first time I went through this website. I don't think I noticed that. What I did was I went down here where it says sample ballots, and for the general election, which is going to be November 3rd, no ballots yet. For the primary, March 3rd, I can select a Democratic ballot, a Libertarian ballot, or a Republican ballot, and I'm going to go for the Democratic. And that's where I noticed for the House of Representatives, wait a minute, where's David Price? Oh, wait a minute, it's District 2. I've been gerrymandered. And now I'm going to put that aside for a minute, and we'll talk about this district. And now I got to dig that thing up from my list here. Should have had these all ready to go. But it'll be here. Okay. I got a website. I had to do some searching for this because most of the places I went to look for to look for maps, for congressional maps, had the old maps. And what you're looking at here is basically an old map. From the previous, well, it's actually the current map because the new one won't come into effect. I'm confusing myself. The new one is in effect for voting. The new one is not in effect for representation until next January when we inaugurate the next slate of congressional and state house representatives and senators. So the current map, it shows who your current representative is. So David Price is still my congressional representative for now. David, I hardly knew ye. Goodbye, David. But for voting purposes, the new maps are in effect, and then when we inaugurate them next year, the new maps will be in effect. And then we'll do the census, and then we'll draw new maps again. So it's going by pretty quick. Okay, so this is the a set of interactive maps, and it is again from the North Carolina Legislature, ncleg.gov/find your legislators. And this is the first one that I found that had the new maps on it, a lot of old maps. And you can actually look at a bunch of stuff on here. You can look at Congress, so our 13 representatives, North Carolina House, North Carolina Senate, and you can set it for the 2020 election or for the current representatives. So it's current representation, Congress, NC House, NC Senate, or 2020 election, Congress, NC House, NC Senate. Let us switch this. What it's looking at right now is the current map for Congress. And this is the 4th district here in the middle, this kind of L-shaped thing that covers a lot of Orange County and then slides along I-40 for a little bit and then makes an incursion into a little bit of Wake County. So it's the brownish-looking map. Oh, I don't have my cursor. Hang on, let me turn my cursor on. There you go. Now you can see the cursor. So it's this brownish thing that kind of does this little incursion into Wake County. And I'm over here someplace in District 4. If we switch to 2020 elections for Congress, watch what happens to District 4. And oh, by the way, around it in blue, that is House District 2. So it kind of surrounds Wake County. So let's switch to the 2020 version, 2020 map. And there's House District 4. It's gotten a lot bigger, apparently. Physically bigger. And here is House District 2, and it has gotten smaller by quite a bit. And it now occupies just the lower or the southwest 3/4 of Wake County. And only Wake County. And there's no District 2 outside of Wake County at all. And I'm still right about over here. So I'm well within the new District 2. And it's got no pieces of the surrounding counties, Johnston, Nash. None of that. So that's the way it has been redrawn. Very interesting. And there are more repercussions to that I will continue to ramble about in this not very well organized civics lesson podcast. So that came as a surprise to me. So then I wanted to go look at my sample ballot. And so I go back to that. Go back to that sample ballot. President. I knew things were going to be a little weird for president. I knew there were going to be a lot of names on there that I probably wouldn't recognize. And then, that long list of candidates from the Democratic Party. I don't know who Deval Patrick is. Of course, Bernie Sanders, Tom Steyer, Elizabeth Warren. Marianne Williamson has dropped out of the race, but her name is still going to be on the ballot. Andrew Yang, still there. Michael Bennet, still there. I think he still is. Joe Biden, or Joseph R. Biden. Michael Bloomberg made the cut here. He got in time. Cory Booker, I think Cory dropped out. I think Pete Buttigieg is on there. Julian Castro, did he drop out? I'm not sure. John Delaney. John Delaney is interesting. John Delaney was the first major candidate to announce that he was going to be running for president. And I heard a podcast that talked to him a long time ago, and he sounded smart. Sounded like somebody I could support. And turns out he is a little more centrist than I am. I don't consider myself a far left progressive. But when he was bad-mouthing the idea of a single-payer healthcare system, kind of lost me. So sorry about that, John Delaney. But somebody did a podcast with him a long time ago, and He was the first one I became aware of. Tulsi Gabbard's on there, and Amy Klobuchar, and no preference. If you don't care for anybody, we can leave it all blank, or you can do no preference. And of course, none of this has anything to do with specifically to District 2 or District 4. Those will be on everybody's ballot. Same here with the U.S. Senate. Erica Smith, Steve Swenson, Cal Cunningham, Trevor Fuller, and can't pronounce this, Atul Goel, Atulgoel. I have heard of Erica Smith and Cal Cunningham, and the other three I've never heard of. And I'm not sure who I'm going to go for. Not sure who I'm going to go for in the presidential primary either, but I am leaning Elizabeth Warren. I think Joe Biden's nice guy, very centrist, probably, what you consider to be very electable. And also kind of disparages the idea of single-payer healthcare. I'm not a single-issue voter, so single-payer healthcare it's an important one to me, but it's not a make or break. My big problem with Joe Biden is I think he's just getting too old. I've dealt with way too many really old people lately. And I'm 70. I've dealt with way too many really old people lately to see that a lot of them really decline when they get into the age that he would be if he were inaugurated and started to do the job of president, especially if he were to go 8 years. It is a gamble. Similar to Bernie Sanders, except Bernie is a little bit too far on the edge of the spectrum for me to vote for in a primary. Elizabeth Warren is also old. I mean, she's about my age. She's 70. But women do better for a decade or so than men do at this point in life. And one of the things that I like, the reason that I'm even willing to say her name and kind of leaning that way, is that she was real big on the single payer healthcare. And then she recognized that that was becoming a difficult issue for someone to win on in the primary and mainly in the general election, the electability thing. So she backed off of that a little bit. She did not back off of it gracefully. She didn't explain it the way I just did, which is to say, I favor single payer, and I think we're going to get there sooner or later, and I think we should as soon as we can, but I don't think the electorate is quite ready for that yet, and for someone to be hanging a lot of their stuff on that hook is going to be kind of an issue. So for a lot of voters, they'll look askance at that a little bit. So she's backed off a little bit. I forget exactly how she did it. That's the way I would do it. And I know that you're not totally comfortable with single payer right now. So in the first term of office, we're going to improve what we've got with Obamacare and make it better. And we will work towards single payer. And likely you will come along, even if you're a little bit worried about it right now. You're probably not inalterably opposed to it the way Republicans are. It's probably not a crusade for you, but it's something you may be a little bit uncomfortable with. Remember my episode that says I love my health care insurance? Yeah. You probably don't love your health insurance, but you're a little bit worried about something you don't really know much about. So we'll take our time and we will show you how this would work and how the federal government can actually make it work well. I got my own reservations. I'm not speaking as Elizabeth Warren now, speaking as me. I got my own reservations about how well the federal government can make single payer work. They can, but I'm not sure they will. And especially if we got the Republicans heckling from the sidelines and clawing tooth and nail, and especially if we don't have a Democratic control of the House and Senate, then it's going to be very difficult to get any of that through. Still, once again, history will repeat itself. So anyway, she's willing to, and I forget exactly again how she said this, but she's willing to take a step back from that as a major issue to do immediately, and to say, we'll aim that direction, but we're not going to promise that in the first 100 days. Okay, so that's how I can lean toward Elizabeth Warren. And who would my next, who would my second pick be? Maybe Buttigieg. Maybe. Maybe. He was the second candidate that I heard very much from. And he had a really good interview with Preet Bharara on the Stay Tuned podcast. And I remember talking about that a little bit. He's the the mayor of South Bend. He's a gay guy. I remember listening to that podcast and being also impressed with him based on the conversation in that podcast. And I remember saying something about that on one of the Triangle Talk shows and saying, nice guy, but he doesn't have a snowball's chance in this election. He's going to be setting himself up for a bright, long, national political future because he's only in his late 30s. And now he's in top 4 contention coming up in Iowa and New Hampshire. So we'll see. I still don't think he's going to do it, but I'm willing to put him as my number 2. And we'll see what happens. So that's the presidential primary. And I talked about Senate. I don't know those folks very well. I've been getting a lot of Facebook stuff, not ads. I get ads and I pretty much ignore them. If the Russians, the Internet Research Agency, are going to try to target me for ads, it's not going to work very well because I'm not going to see them. Or at least I'm not going to look at them. I should look. I really should look because they would inform me as a podcaster. But I'm not seeing very much of that stuff. No, I've got friends, Facebook friends and real friends who have been pounding some stuff. And one of them pointed me to a pretty negative article on Cal Cunningham, who's I guess maybe the front runner, I don't know, for U.S. Senate against Tom Tillis. I've seen Erica Smith talk at some rallies that Cal Cunningham did not come to. So I've heard her talk some. And I've seen some of the more progressive people disparaging Cal. And I really don't know very much about him. And that may be one of the biggest points about this being this little civics lesson is I don't know very much about most of these guys except for the presidential candidates. It's a little early, maybe a little bit difficult to get very much information on the folks that are going to be running for us. Okay, so U.S. House, District 2. Now, here's the thing about District 2. When they gerrymandered or re-gerrymandered District 2 and made it compact, put it all in Wake County, the lower 3/4 of Wake County, the guy who is currently representing District 2, George Holding, Republican, is not going to run because District 2 has shifted. It was a not totally safe, but a very leaning Republican district in the last election. In 18, the Democrat who was running made a pretty good showing. She lost by a fair amount. It was, it wasn't neck and neck, but she did pretty well. But the loss was clear. So now it is not just leaning Democrat, it's a safe Democratic seat. It's Wake County. Wake County is not super conservative. It's got no suburban area, no suburban counties around it. So George Holding is not going to run again. There will be a Republican running, but I'm not going to see them because I won't be taking a Republican ballot. So there are some Democrats that are now heading for that seat. Deborah Ross, Andrew Terrell, Monica Johnson Hostler, and Ollie O'Neill Nelson. And do we know anything about any of those folks? Well, not a lot, but hang on, I got some help. Governor, Roy Cooper, of course, and then I don't know who Ernest T. Reeves is, but somebody worked hard enough to get his name on the ballot to try to win the Democratic primary against Roy Cooper. Don't think he's going to make it. Man, really phlegmed up today. Lieutenant Governor. Our current Lieutenant Governor is Dan Forrest. He's a Republican. We don't elect the governor and the lieutenant governor on the same ballot the way you do for president. So we ended up with a Democratic governor and a Republican lieutenant governor. Shows you how purple North Carolina is. So here's who's running for the Democratic nomination for lieutenant governor. Alan Thomas, Bill Toole, Terry Van Dunn or Dine, Chaz Beasley, Yvonne Lewis Holly, and Ron Newton. Have you ever heard of any of these people? I haven't. So I was wondering, what else are we going to get on this ballot? And this is really the reason I was going there. Are we getting soil and water commissioners and things like that? I didn't know. Turns out, no, we're not. North Carolina auditor. And here's a familiar name. Well, Beth Wood is the incumbent. But Luis Toledo is going to challenge her. And I'm familiar with that name. You may not be, because he was on the ballot for the primary 2 years ago for my state Senate seat against Wiley Nickel. He lost to Wiley Nickel. So there he is back again, heading for auditor and against the incumbent. So I guess his chances are probably not going to be that good. Commissioner of Agriculture. That's currently Steve Troxler, Republican. So we got Walter Smith, Jenna Wadsworth, Donovan Alexander Watson. Don't know who any of those people are. Don't know anything about them. And we're getting pretty far down ballot here. North Carolina Superintendent of Public Instruction. 5 names are there. Don't know any of them. Won't be able to learn very much about them. Nothing significant. And North Carolina Treasurer. And I'm not sure who the current treasurer is. Don't even know if it's Republican or Democrat, but I don't think it's any of these three people. I think it must be a Republican. And is that it? Oh, no, there's more. Board of Commissioners for District 1, District 3, and then Register of Deeds. And that's it. So it's not, I've seen longer ballots. Just barely goes to page 2. So I have seen longer ballots. And I mean, what that tells me, among other things, is that I just have to do some more research. Well, fortunately, some of that research has been done for me. The News and Observer has a recent article on those candidates for Congress in the Democratic primary for this brand new 2nd district. And let's take a look at that article. These are the Democrats who will try to turn this district blue, District 2, in the 2020 election. Well, it's pretty blue already. If you're looking at the video, the map that they're looking at is the old map. What the heck map is that? I don't know. I don't know. North Carolina's new, this is News and Observer. North Carolina's new congressional map turned the 2nd District from a reliably Republican seat into a heavily Democratic one. Prompting incumbent George Holding to leave Congress and attracting high-profile challenges to the race. Voters in the Wake County District will choose between 4 Democrats on the March 3rd primary, with the winner being the favorite to flip the seat. It's rated as a likely Democratic seat by the outside rating groups. So they are, again, Monica Johnson, Hostler, Ollie Nelson, Deborah Ross, and Andy Terrell. And the only name I recognize at all in that is Deborah Ross. And I couldn't tell you why. If you were to say local political person, Deborah Ross, I would say I'd recognize that name. But I don't know what office she held or what she's been doing. So let's find out. There will be Republicans, Alan Swain, one Republican, Alan Swain, and one Libertarian, Jeff Matamu. They won't have primaries. They'll be on the November ballot. They won't have primaries because they're the only ones who have filed for that seat. So no need to put them on a primary. George Holding defeated Linda Coleman in 2018 when he won re-election to the district. At the time, it included parts or all of Franklin, Harnett, Johnston, Nash, Wake, and Wilson counties. When the state lawmakers redrew the congressional districts again in late 2019, the 2nd District includes only Wake County. Not all of Wake County, but most of it. So Holding decided not to run because he was going to get pasted. This district voters are younger than most of the state's other districts, according to voter data compiled by Michael Bitzer, chairman of the politics department at Catawba College. Less than a quarter of registered voters are baby boomers. I am, but I'm small. In the statistics, 31% are millennials, another 11% are Gen Z, and I've been looking at some information about that. Millennials are currently people from age 24 to 38. Older than you might think. You think millennials are kids. They're not kids anymore. They're all grown up. Gen Z is the next generation below. And so the 24 down to 18, the minimum voting age. Any representative is going to have to understand the district's dynamics, Bitzer said. Whenever the lines change, it becomes incumbent upon either the current member or any potential new member to figure out what is this district like and what can I bring to it. And there's the News and Observer's map of the current makeup of District 2. Again, if you're looking at the picture, Wake County is kind of leaning on its side a little bit. So the northeastern quarter of it or so is going to be part of District 1. And then the southwest 3/4 are District 2. So all of Cary and Wake County, pretty much most of Raleigh, maybe not quite all of Raleigh, most of Raleigh, Garner, stuff like that. And then they do a little review of each person. This is not an endorsement. They're just giving you some information about each candidate. Monica Johnson Hostler, 44 years old, entered the race in August before the new lines were drawn. So she was assuming that she would be running against Holding. And she says, I'm running based on the reasons to run, not who I'd be running against. The first and largest reason is because the people of District 2 deserve to have a representative who was listening to them. Well, Monica, just taking that statement out of context or just by itself, I don't like that. That's political blah, blah, blah. You deserve to have a representative who's listening to you. I guess she's pointing that at Holding and saying Holding did not listen to you. I don't know whether he did or not. I don't try to talk to congressmen very often. I did talk to David Price at the Women's March last year. He was walking along the line, and I talked to him for a second or so. I should have whipped out my phone, put it into record, and done an impromptu podcast. I thought about that. I'm too much of a weenie to do something like that. But the idea of you deserve a congressional representative who's going to listen to you, that's just political pandering. It's blah, blah, blah. It's meaningless. Let's see what else she says. She's a member of the Wake County Public School Board, executive director of the North Carolina Coalition Against Sexual Assault. And she says education and healthcare are two of her top issues. She grew up poor in Thomasville as the child of a single parent. Now, she's black. Public education was the absolute foundation for the trajectory of the rest of my life. Those are meaningful statements. They're not particularly qualifying statements, but they're, interesting and meaningful about who she really is. She attended two of the historically black universities, Fayetteville State for her undergrad and NC Central for her master's degree. And she says she still carries a lot of student loan debt, which is going to ring a bell with a lot of young voters, and some maybe not even so young. She said that while discussions about college affordability are important at the federal level, she also wants to engage in conversations about access to good early childhood education. We have the brilliance to talk about both. So that's what the News and Observer is saying about her. And that, that is a really small slice of someone's political philosophy. But that's what we have learned so far. She sounds qualified so far. Ollie Nelson, associate minister at the St. Paul Free Will Baptist Church in Richlands. In Richlands. That is not in District 2. That's not even near District 2. It's down east. He served in the Marines. He's a member of the Onslow County Democratic Party. Onslow County. On his campaign Facebook page, once again, I'm reading from the News and Observer. I want to give him credit for putting this article together. Who did the article, by the way? Brian Murphy was the writer for this article. So Ollie Nelson on his Facebook page, I guess they weren't able to interview him. They pulled this stuff from Facebook. His top issues are creating jobs, blah, 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 reforming the voting process in North Carolina. We need to do that. And it doesn't say here that he's interested in or supports a nonpartisan form of redistricting rather than having the legislature do it. But that's probably where he'll be going. Investing more in the state's coastal areas because he lives down by one. He wrote that he would model himself after Representative Maxine Waters, citing her determination as a model. He outlined changes he would like to implement in education, especially for children with disabilities and special needs. He said he would fight for former Marines and their dependents who drank contaminated water at Camp Lejeune from 1957 to 1987. So it's a local issue for him down in Onslow County. Something we might think about up here, but not a big one here. He tried to run in the Democratic primary in eastern North Carolina's 3rd district during last year's special election, but he ran into issues with paperwork. And then the last line of his little segment here in this article is, House candidates are not required to live in the district they represent. Because he lives down in Onslow County. That's where he's registered. I looked him up in that voter lookup thing, and he's I think it was he lived in Jacksonville. Why would someone who lives in Jacksonville be running for the congressional seat that covers exclusively Wake County. A question that he will probably have to answer. I haven't seen the answer to that. Initially, just based on the fact that he ain't from around here, that would be a disqualification for me. Andy Terrell or Terrell, Terrell. He turns 33 at the end of January. He interned in the Obama administration. He resigned from the British American Business Council to run for Congress. That organization works with British businesses to open offices in North Carolina. So he's already got the more interesting resume here. He's from Hickory. He does live here now. He's from Hickory. He'd be the first openly gay person elected to Congress from North Carolina. There are 7 openly gay members in the House right now, none of them from any southern state. And they quote him, growing up as a gay kid, I never thought it'd be possible to represent my state and community in a body like Congress. He is married. He said in a recent municipal election in Wake County, it showed let me try this again. He said the recent municipal elections in Wake County, I guess for Raleigh mayor, showed a desire for generational diversity and fresh new leadership in North Carolina. 2 openly gay people were elected to the Raleigh City Council, including 28-year-old Jonathan Melton. Terrell said that the Reed-run 2nd District has an average age of 35, with a strong tech and entrepreneurial presence, which dovetails with my background, he says. The Stage 3 Democratic representatives in the House are currently 72 or older. And that's an issue I have with David Price running again. I was kind of hoping that he would not run again this time and let someone younger take what is still going to be a very safe Democratic seat in the good old 4th, the newly redrawn 4th, still going to be a safe Democrat. But he's running again. I'm pretty sure he's running again. He's not on my ballot. I don't know. Pretty sure he's running again. Terrell says, our party is supposed to be reaching out to young people, talking on the issues that matter to us and trying to get out the vote. It would behoove us to put someone on the ballot who can speak to those issues with authority. He said that his late mother's cancer treatments and medical bills nearly led his family into bankruptcy. That's something I can relate to. We're not going to go bankrupt, but I can see how it could be a big problem for people of less means than Cindy and I. That experience, he said, made him an advocate for universal medical coverage and pushed him into the race. So that was a big issue for him. And that makes him the most interesting candidate in my mind so far. We'll see. Deborah Ross, who I said I recognized. Name that I recognized. She's 56. She served as the state director of the American Civil Liberties Union in the 1990s and represented parts of Wake County in the state legislature for a decade. She lost a 2016 challenge for senator to incumbent Senator Richard Burr. So there's where I've heard of her name. I'm not sure what district she represented. I don't think mine, but I can't tell you that I knew every person who was representing me in the legislature. I know for today. But that's where I've heard her name. She said her long history in Wake County, where she's lived for more than 30 years, makes her well equipped to serve the new district. The new district being all in Wake County. I've been an active member of this community, she said. It's a district where I feel like our values are the same. I understand the needs of a growing community. I've seen all the new folks who have come in. I live in the middle of it. She also worked at Go Triangle, said the area's infrastructure needs are a top priority. She would bring a lot of expertise to Congress. And she asks, how do we pay for the needs of a growing community? We used to have better ways of doing it. Congress has pretty much abandoned them. She cited renewable energy and voting rights as other top issues. I feel like I understand the needs of senior citizens, and I do so much work with millennials. She's covering the gamut. I feel like actually the age I am is a really good age for understanding the diverse needs of the district, she said. Okay, the age she is 56. She has raised more than $300,000 in less than a month after entering the race in early December. An internal polling memo released by the campaign, her internal polling, showed that Ross had a commanding lead in the race, 40%, to a combined 9% for the other three candidates. So lead in the race, lead in name recognition. The poll surveyed 501 Democratic voters in the 2nd District from January 7th to the 12th. 64% were contacted on cell phones. 4.4% margin of error. Okay, so that's a quick review of the candidates for Congress in the brand new 2nd Congressional District that will be all encompassed in Wake County, the southwestern 3/4 of Wake County. So, a quick look in some of the other people we got to vote for. I got some research to do. You have got some research to do if you want to know anything about any of these people. No bond issues, no initiatives. Well, we don't have initiatives in North Carolina, but no constitutional amendments this time. Well, not in the primary. I guess that wouldn't show up in the primary anyway. None of those would show up in the primary. This is a primary. We may have all of those when we get to the general election. Sometimes it's hard to remember. This is the primary. What else? You should, and I keep seeing this like pounding my Facebook page. No voter ID required for this primary. It may be back for the general, but a judge put a restriction on it, and it won't be required for this primary. Anything else? Oh, early voting. Here's my note on early voting. It starts February 13th. So yes, definitely before Nevada and South Carolina, but after Iowa and New Hampshire. So if our early voting started before Iowa, before February 3rd, we would clearly be the first in the nation primary. Well, maybe other states are doing early voting too. I don't know. Some of the other Super Tuesday states. I'm sure some of them are. But we're starting the 13th. So we're like the third in the nation primary. Because you can actually go vote before the Nevada caucus and the South Carolina primary. South Carolina may have early voting too. They do a real primary. They probably have early voting. They may actually be the first in the nation primary based on early voting. I don't know. I didn't go look it up. Is that all I had set up for? Let me just do a quick run through here. Yeah, I think that's it. Yeah, that's pretty much it. So I'm just going to do one more thing. This floated through the mailbox. That was a while ago, maybe a month ago or so. Don't know why this showed up for me, but it did come for me. It's called the 2019. Oh, it came a while ago. Congressional District Census, commissioned by the Republican Party, and it came to me. And at the time, they thought I lived in Congressional District 4. This may be so old that it was before the decision was made to redraw the map one more time. I don't think it's that old, though. What makes it interesting to me is this is they call it a congressional district census. It's a questionnaire, and got a bunch of questions. They want multiple choice, mostly answers to. And what makes this interesting is the way that they do it. Not all of the questions, but many of them are push questions. They are leading questions. They are the language of the question is designed to push you toward one answer. And so let's go through a few of these, just for fun. Political profile, section 1. Do you generally identify yourself as a conservative Republican, a moderate Republican, a liberal Republican, an independent voter who leans Republican, or a Democrat? Apparently, there's only one kind of Democrat, or at least there's only one kind of Democrat they're interested in. Check Democrat, and this will be the last survey that we send to you. I'm not giving you the answers to these, just the questions. Which of the following best describes you? A supporter of President Trump, but not the Republican Party. A supporter of both the Republican Party. Oh, a supporter of the Republican Party, but not President Trump. A supporter of both. Not a supporter of either, or a not sure. Do you plan on supporting Donald Trump in the 2020 presidential election? Few I wasn't interested in. What media source do you regularly receive your political news? The main three networks, CBS, NBC, ABC, CNN, MSNBC, the two, well, okay, I guess they're lumping them together because they think they're both liberal, and maybe you do, I don't know. News websites, local newspaper, Friends, Fox News, Facebook, internet blogs, radio, text messages, Twitter, candidates' websites, national magazines, social networks. Some general issues. Do you think President Trump is leading our nation in the right direction, or do you feel it is going in the wrong direction? Do you think that Nancy Pelosi and the Democrat-controlled House are holding President Trump's agendas hostage and putting their political interests ahead of the good of our country? This is where you can start seeing a pretty significant lean to the questions. Do you approve or disapprove of the Democrats' agenda to raise taxes, provide free health care and college tuition to all, open our borders to all immigrants, enact dangerous abortion policies, pack the Supreme Court, really, allow inmates to vote, and abolish the Electoral College? Yeah, they're leaning their agenda pretty hard there. Do you think the Democrat Party, and by the way, calling it the Democrat Party, that is a very Republican thing to do. It is not the Democrat Party. It's the Democratic Party. But they take every opportunity to say that because they think it irritates Democrats if they call it that. Do you think the Democrat Party as a whole is promoting a big government socialist agenda for America? Oh, yeah, sure they are. Do you believe the national media has a strong bias against all things Donald Trump and Republican and fails to tell American voters the real facts about Republican policies, principles, goals, and accomplishments? Well, yeah, actually, I kind of think that's true. Do you approve or disapprove of adding a question to the U.S. Census about citizenship? It, by the way, is not going to happen. There will be no citizenship question on the census. Do you believe social media companies are suppressing conservative messages in order to influence public opinion and elections? Do you think political correctness has gotten out of hand in America? Are you concerned that a foreign nation such as Russia, Iran, or China will interfere with the 2020 presidential election? And that's it for that side. Anything on the other side? A little bit. A lot of stuff I don't want to take the time to go through now. The Democrats' fixation on climate change has led to costly regulations that are negatively affecting our nation's economy and across the board. And if this were a trial, I would say, objection. Is there a question there? Okay, here's the question. Do you think climate change is a major threat to our nation? Do you think race relations in America are getting better or worse? Do you agree with President Trump that fixing our nation's inner cities and working to rebuild our crumbling highways, bridges, tunnels, airports, and schools and hospitals must be a top priority in the next few years? Do you believe more federal laws? Try this again. Do you believe more federal laws that impede individuals' Second Amendment rights are the proper response to gun violence in our nation? Is President Trump right to pursue fair trade deals and renegotiate present trade policies with other countries as a means of boosting America's economy by protecting and creating jobs, increasing America's wages, and reducing our nation's trade deficit? That is a serious leading push question. And should America take military action, if necessary, to keep Iran or any nation from using nuclear weapons? The last one. This came out well before the big Iran war that we're in the middle of now. That's kind of interesting to see that there. All right. We've gotten more mail from the Republican Party. Cindy's gotten targeted with some. Don't know why. Well, we're both registered unaffiliated. Maybe they're just taking their chances to see if they could persuade us. I believe I've read that of the group of unaffiliated voters, more of them lean conservative than progressive or liberal. So I don't know. All right, I think I'm done. Got other stuff to do to get ready for the Women's March coming up, as I record this, coming up tomorrow morning. No, tomorrow afternoon, 12:30, Halifax Mall. Be there or be square. If you come, look for me. I should be easy to recognize. Well, I'm going to have a hat on. I'm not sure which hat. It sort of depends on the temperature. If it's warm enough, I'll have my brown cowboy-looking hat. And if it's chilly, I'll just have a brown knit. Brown is apparently my favorite color. A brown knit cap. Got to keep the dome warm. In fact, not bad right now because the room warms up when I've got the lights on and the computer's going and podcasting running. But just wandering around the house as normal with no hair on my head. It's actually a little chilly. I wear a hat a lot of the time around inside. All right, so this has been episode number 75, a civics episode. See what I mean about North Carolina's first in the nation primary, a clickbait episode? Oh, I don't get to do the clickbait thing very often. I think that's why I chose that. The alternative title for this episode was going to be Goodbye, David Price. And not because he's going anywhere, but because I had been removed from the 4th District, so he's not going to be my congressman anymore. So goodbye, David Price. But that lost out. That lost out to the North Carolina First in the Nation primary. And I'm Gary Pierce, your congenial host and the Hair Club for Men up-and-coming member. Maybe I'm going to join the Bald Men's Club instead, if there's such a thing. I'm kind of liking the look. There again. Once again, I'll put this on the website. The mugshot, the full face picture, and the profile. And what the heck? We'll give you the back of the head. Okay, those three going up on the website for sure. Thank you for listening. To the, I didn't do much of the what the Triangle Talk Show is all about. I don't need to do that every episode. You know. Or you can look on the website, triangletalkshow.com. Apparently this worked. Whatever I did, whatever magic sauce I put together to get this on YouTube Live. So things have become more difficult over there. By the way, this show is not for kids. If you're a kid and you're watching this on YouTube Live, this is not for you. Doesn't mean you can't watch. Just means I have no intention of you being part of the audience. They are cracking down on stuff for kids. Darn. So, get away from my boy, you bother me, and get off the lawn. We're done.